When you're 30 years old and finally think you've figured life out, at least somewhat, it's a strange feeling to realize you're still learning the same painful lessons you thought you'd mastered in your early 20s. My name's Leo. I'm 30, and for the longest time, I was the kind of guy who quietly worked hard, never made a scene, and believed that love, real love, was supposed to feel like a partnership. Not a contract, not a competition, definitely not a power struggle. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that sometimes the person closest to you, the one you trust with your future, can turn out to be the very person who's been plotting to take everything the moment you stop giving. I didn't grow up with much. My parents weren't poor, but they were the type of people who made sure we all knew exactly how hard things were. I had two older sisters, Mel and Clara, who could do no wrong in their eyes. Every missed curfew, every bad grade, every drama-filled relationship they stumbled through was met with sympathy and excuses. Meanwhile, I was the one who was too quiet, too serious, and too sensitive. That's the one that stuck the most. Sensitive, like it was some sort of defect. I kept my head down, got a degree in finance, and by 28 I'd saved enough to put a down payment on a small, but nice house on the outskirts of town. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine. The mortgage was in my name. The deed too. I remember the first night I slept there alone. No furniture yet, just a sleeping bag on the living room floor and a warm beer in my hand. I felt proud, like I'd finally built something no one could take away from me. Enter Kara. She came into my life like a storm I didn't see coming. We met at a friend's engagement party. She was sharp, funny, magnetic. She had that kind of presence that made you lean in just to hear what she'd say next. I was hooked within a week. She worked in marketing, did freelance design on the side, and had a knack for turning even the dullest room into something that looked like it belonged in a magazine. When she first saw my place, she called it a blank canvas with potential, which I took as a compliment. She started spending more time there. Slowly at first, an overnight bag, then a toothbrush, a drawer, a shelf. Before I knew it, she was living with me full-time, and I didn't mind. Honestly, I loved having her around. I thought we were building something together. My family, of course, had mixed opinions. My mom liked Kara, mainly because she was beautiful and knew how to charm at dinners. My sisters were less subtle. Mel once pulled me aside and said, "You sure she's not just upgrading her life through you?" I shrugged it off. Clara wasn't any better. "She's very curated," she said one Christmas, as if Kara were a social media profile instead of a person. But I didn't listen. I didn't want to. Kara made me feel seen in a way my family never had. She listened, gave advice, encouraged my goals, even helped redesign my home office to match my mindset, whatever that meant. She had taste, no denying that. But what I didn't realize then was how good she was at turning things that were mine into things that felt like hers. It started subtly. One day I noticed she'd introduced herself to my neighbor as the homeowner. I was inside when it happened, but I heard the way she laughed and said, "Yeah, we just finished repainting the den." Then there were the deliveries, furniture I hadn't ordered, artwork I didn't pick, subscription boxes for designer candles, and curated home decor that showed up addressed to her. I told myself it was normal. She was nesting. That's what couples do when they're in love and planning a future, right? But over time, the language shifted. It was no longer our space. It was her design. She told friends she was the one who made the house livable. That before she moved in, it was a lonely man cave with no soul. I'd laugh it off at parties, but it started eating at me. I was still paying the mortgage, still covering the utilities, the insurance, the groceries. Kara worked, but her income was sporadic. Most months, she barely covered her own spending habits. Still, she insisted on presenting us as a power couple. People assumed she'd brought the money, the lifestyle, the upgrades. And Karen never corrected them. Then came the car. We'd been together nearly 2 years at that point, and my old Honda Civic was on its last legs. I'd been saving for a new car, nothing flashy, just something reliable. Kara, on the other hand, had bigger ideas. "We should lease something sleek," she said. "It's not just about function. It's about image. Especially if we're thinking about getting married. People judge." Against my better judgment, I let her talk me into a mid-range SUV. She offered to handle the details of the lease, and I didn't think twice. My credit was solid, the lease went under my name, and she picked the color and interior like she was customizing her dream car. At first, I let it go. She drove it more than I did anyway. But I paid the monthly bill. Every single one. And then, she proposed. Not a marriage proposal. A business one. Kara had always wanted to start her own design consultancy, and she pitched it to me like a startup founder wooing an investor. "It's going to be big," she said, eyes glowing. "I just need a little help up front. We can even use the second bedroom as my home office. It's perfect." I asked how much she needed. She said 10 grand. I swallowed hard. That was nearly all my savings, but she swore she'd pay me back within a year. Said she'd never take my support for granted. So I did it. I signed the check, helped her register the LLC, even set up her QuickBooks account. I was all in. And for a while, it was good. She was busy, motivated, full of ideas. Our relationship felt strong again. But deep down, I couldn't ignore the growing sense that everything we shared had somehow become hers to claim. Her car, her business, her home. I kept telling myself that once things settled, once the business took off, the balance would even out. She'd see how much I'd done for her, for us. But the balance never came. Instead, the fights did. They were quiet at first. Passive comments. Snide remarks when I'd ask about the money. "Why are you always so obsessed with the budget? You never support me creatively. Everything I do is to make our life better. Why do you treat it like a problem?" I bit my tongue more times than I can count. My friends started to notice I was quieter, more withdrawn. My coworker, Alan, once asked if I was sleeping okay. I wasn't. I'd lie awake most nights staring at the ceiling, wondering how the hell I'd let my life become something I barely recognized. The final straw didn't come in some explosive, dramatic moment. It came on a Thursday night, after a fight about money, again. I'd asked Kara to maybe scale back on the decor budget for her business because a few clients had backed out and we were running tight. That's when she said it. Loud, sharp, with venom in her voice I'd never heard before. "If you leave me, you'll have nothing. This house, the car, everything is because of me." I remember just staring at her. My jaw clenched, my heart pounding. I didn't even raise my voice. I just nodded, turned around, and started packing a bag. She followed me through the house, still shouting, still hurling insults, but I didn't respond. I grabbed what I needed, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. What she didn't realize, what she never bothered to learn, was that everything she just claimed ownership over, none of it had her name on it. That was the moment everything shifted. I didn't go far that night. I grabbed a hotel downtown for the weekend, checked in with my duffel bag and laptop, and sat on the bed for a long time, just breathing. There wasn't any crying. No dramatic collapse. Just a strange, aching kind of clarity. Kara had screamed those words at me like a weapon, like she believed them, like she owned me. And worse, like she thought I was too stupid or too weak to realize what was actually mine. It was in that silence, with the hum of the hotel fridge in the background and city lights bouncing off the windows, that I decided I wasn't going to argue with her anymore. I was going to let her believe she'd won. Let her get comfortable. Let her think I was gone for good. The next morning, I called the bank. The house, the mortgage, the accounts, every single one of them was under my name. I had the paperwork to prove it. I'd always kept Kara off the title because it's easier to do later if we ever marry, and she hadn't pressed the issue. Same with the car. My lease, my payments. The business? Registered under her, sure, but the 10 grand I loaned her? Yeah, I kept that contract too. Signed, dated, with witnesses. She never even read it. She just smiled and kissed me and said, "You trust me, right?" I did, back then. But the real fire didn't start until I stopped returning her texts. That first weekend, she called me 37 times. Left voicemails alternating between tearful apologies and screaming threats. By Monday morning, I had 3 emails, 5 long texts, and 1 Instagram story that was clearly a vague dig. Something like, "When someone walks away from everything you built together, just remember who made them who they are." Subtle. I didn't reply. I let her sit in the silence. Instead, I met with a lawyer. Her name was Rachel. Sharp as a knife and twice as precise. I laid it all out. Who owned what, how long we'd lived together, the money trail. I was careful. I didn't want to destroy Kara. I just wanted her out of the house, out of my finances, out of my life. Rachel raised an eyebrow after I finished explaining. "She's not on the deed, not on the lease, not on any joint accounts. And you have a written loan agreement?" she said. "Yep." Rachel smirked. "Then we'll handle this clean. I'll draft the eviction notice. That word, eviction, it felt surreal. Like I was evicting a stranger, not the woman I once thought I'd marry. But it wasn't just about legal forms. It was what happened in the 2 weeks that followed that truly showed me who Kara was, and just how much damage she thought she could still do. The first few days were quiet. I stayed with my friend Ben during the week. He had a spare room and zero judgment. He offered beer in silence, and I took both. Meanwhile, Kara stopped calling. I figured she'd moved on to sulking or plotting. But then Ben got a weird message on Facebook from an account neither of us recognized. It was one of those just checking in messages, pretending to be curious about me, what I was up to, where I was staying, how things were going. Ben showed me the message and said, "This smells like Kara." I agreed. Then came the packages. Apparently, she'd decided to use my Amazon account. Technically, it was still logged in on her laptop. Rookie mistake on my part. I didn't even notice until I got a receipt emailed to me for a $299 essential oil diffuser shaped like a dragon egg. I logged in, canceled the order, changed the password, and revoked all device access. I also canceled all the subscription boxes she'd been receiving. $50 a month for artisan coffee beans she never drank, $40 for candles, $30 for luxury snacks. The next day, she posted a long Instagram story. Black text on a white screen, the universal format for a meltdown. I gave someone my entire heart. I helped build a home. I sacrificed my time, my business, my creativity. And in the end, I was thrown away like trash. Some men don't deserve women like me. The comments rolled in. "You deserve better. What a jerk. Girl, you built him." One person said, "He'll be crawling back in a week." I didn't crawl. Instead, I blocked her on everything. But Kara wasn't done. The next week, I got a call from my mom. "Leo," she said, her voice pinched and sharp. "What's going on with Kara?" "She just called me sobbing, saying you kicked her out and took everything." "Is that true?" I nearly dropped my phone. "Wait, she called you?" "Yes. She said she doesn't even have a place to stay, and you just abandoned her like she was nothing." "Leo, I raised you better than that. You're not your father." That last line was a cheap shot. My dad left when I was 14. I hadn't seen him in years. I took a deep breath. "Mom, the house is mine. The car is mine. The accounts are mine. I loaned her money for her business, and I have a signed contract. She doesn't pay rent. She's not entitled to anything. I didn't abandon her. I removed myself from a toxic situation." There was a pause on the other end. "Still," she said, "you could have handled it with more grace." I almost laughed. Grace. Like letting a grown woman scream that I'd be nothing without her was just a mild disagreement over dinner. Then came the cherry on top. A couple nights later, Ben and I were watching a game when I got a message from Clara, my oldest sister. "You really broke her," it said. "She showed up to Mel's birthday crying. Said she's being evicted. Are you seriously doing that to her? You know she has nowhere else to go." Mel followed up 10 minutes later. "You do realize this makes you look like a monster, right?" I stared at the screen. My family. The same family that barely supported me when I bought the house, that mocked me when I said Kara might be taking advantage of me, was now rallying behind her. The same woman who hadn't paid a single bill in months. The woman who called my neighbor to brag about our house. The woman who screamed that I'd have nothing without her. I turned off my phone. The next morning, I sat in Rachel's office, and she handed me the finalized eviction notice. She smiled like someone delivering good news. "It's all set. She has 30 days to vacate. You don't even have to serve her personally. We'll have a process server do it." And for the first time in weeks, I felt calm. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Because Kara wasn't just living in my house. She was trying to own my life, socially, emotionally, financially. She'd weaponized my family, painted herself as the victim, and tried to rewrite the story while I was busy picking up the pieces. And I hadn't even told her yet about the loan collection notice she'd be receiving, or the fact that I'd put her business name on the hook for repaying every penny. But I would. Soon. For now, I just waited. I let her keep playing house. Let her host dinners in my kitchen. Let her soak in my tub and sleep under my roof. Because the silence was almost over. And the knock at the door was coming. When people talk about hitting rock bottom, they usually picture something loud, an explosion, a breakdown, a dramatic collapse that leaves you crying on the bathroom floor. But for me, it was quiet. Almost eerily so. No screaming. No breakdown. Just a slow, persistent ache that settled in my chest like a weight I couldn't shake. After the eviction papers were served, Kara didn't reach out. Not directly, at least. She posted cryptic stories on social media, quotes about betrayal, losing everything, and rising from the ashes. I stayed off social media as much as I could. I didn't want to see the reactions, the comments from her friends, the way people who barely knew me suddenly had opinions about the kind of man I was. But Ben would show me now and then, shaking his head. Dude, she's out here acting like you left her barefoot in the snow, he muttered one night, tossing his phone on the coffee table. In a way, it was easier to let her paint that picture. Let her spin whatever story she needed to keep herself warm while the clock ticked down on her stay in my house. But while she made noise, I was quiet. I went to work. I answered emails. I kept showing up, even when I felt like I was made of paper. My coworkers noticed the change. I'd always been the guy with a plan, the guy who had spreadsheets for everything, who packed lunch every day and made budgets for fun. Now, I was showing up with half-buttoned shirts and unshaved stubble, staring into space during meetings. Alan, the same guy who once asked if I was sleeping okay, cornered me in the break room one Thursday. You look like you're running on fumes, he said, handing me a fresh cup of coffee. I shrugged. Just a lot going on at home. He nodded slowly, not pushing. I've been there, man. If you need anything, space, time, an ear, just say the word. I almost did. Almost told him everything. But I didn't. Because part of me still felt ashamed. Like I'd let this happen. Like I'd failed to see the signs early enough. But that guilt? It didn't last forever. The day Kara finally left was unceremonious. I didn't even see her go. I had Rachel's office forward me the confirmation from the process server. She'd turned over the keys and vacated the property 3 days before the deadline. No drama. No final confrontation. Just gone. I drove back to the house on a rainy Saturday morning. The driveway was clear. No SUV. No designer rain boots by the door. No flower box she'd insisted on hanging under the front window. The silence inside was deafening, but it wasn't painful. It was peaceful, until I stepped into the living room and saw what she'd done. The place was stripped of warmth. She'd taken every rug, every piece of wall art, every throw blanket. Even the decorative bowl that held my spare keys was gone. She left the couch, but only after slashing the underside of the cushions. Petty, quietly cruel, like she wanted the last word without saying it out loud. I spent the rest of the day cleaning. Not just physically, emotionally too. I threw away the leftover candles, bagged up the unopened skincare boxes, donated her and used design books. Every drawer, every cabinet I opened felt like unpeeling a layer of skin. But I kept going, kept wiping down the spaces she used to fill. By nightfall, I was exhausted. But when I lay down on the bare mattress with no sheets, just a pillow and a folded blanket, I finally felt something new. Space. Not emptiness. Room. Room to breathe. Room to rebuild. Room to figure out who I was without the noise of someone else constantly rewriting my story. I started small. I bought new sheets. Not the luxury kind Kara always insisted on. Just soft, simple cotton. Navy blue. I like them. I repainted the office back to its original color. Deleted the joint calendar she'd created. Blocked the remaining mutual friends who kept sending me screenshots of her posts. And I made a list. I know, it sounds obsessive. But lists ground me. Always have. And this one wasn't a checklist of revenge or petty payback. It was a rebuild list. A quiet blueprint for how I'd get myself back. 1. Fix the couch. I found a local upholsterer and had them repair the damage. It wasn't cheap, but it was worth it. The couch came back better than before. 2. Close shared accounts. Even though they were under my name, I closed the credit cards Kara used and flagged every transaction she'd made in the last 90 days. Some were business-related. Some were definitely not. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. 3. Collect on the loan. Rachel helped me file the legal notice. Kara had 30 days to respond before the claim moved forward. I didn't expect her to pay, but it was the principle. 10 grand was a lot, and I'd earned every penny back the hard way. 4. Take time off. I scheduled a week of vacation. No emails. No meetings. Just me. I didn't go anywhere exotic. Just rented a cabin upstate. Brought a stack of books and a beat-up notebook. I didn't write anything profound. Mostly scribbles. But it felt good to put thoughts down again. 5. Therapy. This one took the most courage. I'd always been a deal-with-it-alone kind of guy. But something about Kara's manipulation stuck in my bones. So I found a therapist named Miguel, and we started untangling things, slowly, carefully. The sessions were hard. I'd sit on that gray couch and struggle to explain how someone could make me doubt everything I knew about myself. Miguel didn't give me answers. He gave me better questions. Why do you think you didn't speak up earlier? What were you afraid would happen if you said no? Who taught you that being quiet meant being safe? I hated those questions at first, but I kept going. And little by little, I started to see the shape of my own spine again. Then, something unexpected happened. My sisters reached out. Mel sent a text first. Hey, heard she's out. Can we talk? I didn't respond. A day later, Clara emailed me. I owe you an apology. You were right about her. I should have trusted your judgment. Still, I stayed silent. Because it wasn't just about them taking Kara's side. It was about a lifetime of not being seen, of being the quiet brother who got steamrolled by louder personalities. I didn't need their validation. I needed space. So I gave it to myself. And slowly, the house stopped feeling like a war zone. I bought new furniture, not flashy, just me. I put up art that I liked. I started cooking again, not just reheating frozen dinners or ordering takeout. I reconnected with old friends. I even started running in the mornings just to feel my body move, to sweat out the poison. One evening, I was cleaning out the guest room, the one Kara had turned into her design office, when I found a shoebox hidden in the back of the closet. Inside were receipts, dozens of them. Trips, shopping sprees, expensive lunches charged to my cards. Some went back months. I hadn't noticed before because she handled some of the digital banking notifications on her own devices. At first, I felt that old fury rise up. But then I laughed. Not out of joy, more out of disbelief. The shoebox felt like the final puzzle piece. The proof that she'd been playing a long game. That she saw me as an investor in her fantasy life. And when I stopped paying, she tried to rewrite the ending. I sent photos of the contents to Rachel. She responded in 5 minutes. This strengthens the case. Let's move forward with the small claims filing. And if she retaliates online, we'll issue a cease and desist. I nodded to myself. This was it. The slow, steady climb back up. I wasn't chasing revenge anymore. I was reclaiming peace. And maybe, just maybe, I was finally learning that you don't have to burn your world down to start over. You just have to stop giving matches to people who only know how to light fires and walk away. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have predicted, was that Kara wasn't finished. Not yet. And the next move she made? It would drag my entire family back into the storm. Just when I thought I'd rebuilt enough to stand again, she found a new way to knock on my door. And this time, she wasn't alone. There's a unique kind of calm that comes right before everything goes sideways again. The kind that makes you feel like maybe, just maybe, you've outrun the worst of it. Like you've patched the leaks, rebuilt the scaffolding, and reinforced the doors so nothing can shake you anymore. That's where I was. I had my house back. My finances were untangled. My mind was clearer. I had routine, control, and more importantly, silence. And then Kara kicked the door open again, figuratively, not literally. Though if she'd had the chance, I wouldn't have put it past her. It started with a letter. Not from Kara. From a lawyer. It was thin, folded neatly, slipped into my mailbox like it was nothing more than a catalog. But the moment I saw the name Manning and Leith Associates in the return address corner, I knew this wasn't junk mail. Inside was a formal request to cease and desist all public defamation against Kara Holt. Public defamation. I sat down at my kitchen counter and read the letter twice. It accused me of a pattern of online slander, character attacks, and attempts to damage Ms. Holt's professional reputation. I hadn't said a word online. I hadn't posted anything. No vague tweets. No Reddit rants. Not even a sarcastic meme. I'd intentionally kept quiet to avoid exactly this kind of fallout. So I called Rachel. Forwarded her the letter. She read it on the spot, then sighed through the phone. She's fishing, Rachel said. It's a scare tactic. This isn't a real legal threat. It's a bluff, hoping you'll panic and back off your loan claim. Don't. I haven't even said anything publicly, I told her. She's banking on the assumption you will. Or that you're talking behind the scenes. She's trying to put pressure on you without risking anything herself. And then Rachel paused. There's more, isn't there? I asked. She hired a reputation management firm. That's how she's affording this letterhead. And just like that, the game shifted. This wasn't just an ex trying to protect her pride. This was a PR move. A campaign. I wasn't the only one she was trying to rewrite the story for. So I dug, and what I found lit a spark in me I hadn't felt in a long time. Not since the day I walked out with my duffel bag and left her shouting in the hallway. See, when you rebuild yourself from scratch, piece by piece, you start noticing the cracks you used to ignore. You stop giving people the benefit of the doubt, and you start asking questions. Like why Kara's new design business, Holt Interiors, had suddenly launched a glossy website filled with client testimonials I'd never heard of. Or how her Instagram following jumped by 5,000 in a week. Or why one of my old college friends texted me out of the blue to say, "Hey, man, Kara reached out and said you were threatening her business. Is everything okay?" She was poisoning the well. Quietly, strategically, targeting the corners of my life she thought I wouldn't notice. But I noticed. And more importantly, I took notes. I started building a dossier. Not out of spite, but out of necessity. I kept a folder on my desktop titled Facts. Inside, I saved screenshots of every exaggerated or fabricated claim she made online. Photos of the receipt box I'd found in the closet. Transaction records tied to my personal cards used for her business. A copy of the signed loan agreement, scanned and time-stamped. Screenshots of messages she sent mutual friends, claiming the house was co-owned. And while I gathered all that, something else happened, something I hadn't planned for. People started talking. Not everyone, but a few. Like Jenna, a girl I barely remembered from a mutual friend's birthday dinner. She messaged me on LinkedIn, of all places. "Hey Leo, you don't know me well, but I used to work freelance for Kara. She never paid me for the last project. Claimed her accounts were frozen. Just figured you'd want to know." I replied, politely asked for documentation. Jenna had invoices, screenshots of texts, even a voice message Kara sent her explaining why her partner was being difficult with money. Then came David, a photographer Kara had hired to take branding shots for her website. Same story, never paid. But what David had that Jenna didn't was a contract. A legally binding contract with Kara's name on it, signed and dated. So I compiled that too. And while I was assembling the blueprint, Rachel helped me escalate the small claims filing into a formal civil suit for breach of contract and unauthorized use of funds. "I'm not saying we go nuclear," Rachel said during one call, "but we prep the warheads. Just in case." But there was one piece missing. Leverage. I didn't want revenge that looked petty. I wanted something clean, calculated. Something that would make her think twice before trying to rewrite anyone else's story ever again. And then I remembered the SUV. She'd taken it with her when she left, naturally. It was flashy, new, and technically she drove it more often. But I still made the payments. So I called the dealership. After a few minutes on hold, I was transferred to finance. "Can you confirm the current driver of the leased 2023 Lexus RX under account hashtag asterisk 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 asterisk?" I asked. "Legally, sir, only the account holder is authorized to operate the vehicle," the man said politely. "That would be you." "Great," I said. "I need to report the vehicle as an unauthorized possession." Within 48 hours, the car was flagged. And 2 days later, I got a call from the dealership saying they'd recovered the vehicle in a private lot and towed it back to the lot for review. Apparently, Kara had left it parked behind her new rental, which was technically a violation of the lease. I didn't press charges. I didn't need to. The embarrassment of losing the car she flaunted was enough. But even that wasn't the killing blow. The killing blow came from someone I never expected to hear from again. My father. Out of the blue, I got an email. No subject line. Just, "I saw what's happening. I'm proud of how you're handling it. If you want to talk, I'm here." I stared at the screen for a long time. We hadn't spoken in over a decade. After he walked out, my mom banned all mention of him. He sent a few birthday cards. Tried once or twice to call, but I never picked up, never replied. Now, out of nowhere, this. I didn't know what to do with it. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Part of me wanted to scream. But a bigger part, the tired, scarred part, wanted to know why now. So I emailed back. And what followed was a conversation I never expected. He told me he'd been following Kara's career because someone in his town had shared one of her posts. He clicked, saw the name, remembered mine, and realized it was me. Then he looked deeper. Found the lawsuit. Found the property filings. Found everything. "You've become a man I never had the guts to be," he wrote. It didn't fix things. Not overnight. But it ignited something. Because as I reread his words, something crystallized. Kara had spent months trying to control the narrative, but I had the truth. And now I had allies. People who had seen behind the curtain. People who'd been burned, ignored, gaslit, and discarded. So I gathered them. Jenna, David, even another woman named Rochelle who messaged me out of the blue with her own story about Kara stiffing her on branding work 2 years ago. Together, we built a timeline. Names, dates, contracts, receipts. Rachel helped me file a formal fraud report against Kara's business for misrepresentation and misuse of funds. It wasn't about jail time. It was about accountability. Consequences. And then, with everything lined up, I sat down at my desk, opened a blank document, and I started to write. Not a rant, not a smear campaign, just the truth. A calm, detailed account of what had happened from the day she moved in to the moment she walked out. No exaggeration, no insults, no revenge fantasy, just the facts. I didn't post it yet, but I had it ready, because something was coming. And I wasn't just going to react this time. I was going to own it. Everything was finally in place. And when Kara made her final move, thinking she still had the upper hand, she wouldn't just lose. She'd expose herself in the process. It happened on a Monday. I remember because I'd just come back from my morning run, shoes still damp from dew, when my phone lit up with 3 notifications, almost at once. First was a call from Rachel. Second, a LinkedIn message from Jenna. And third, an email with the subject line, Kara Holt public statement. My heart didn't race. I didn't feel dread, just an eerie calm, like I already knew what it would say. I answered Rachel first. She jumped the gun, Rachel said. She panicked. She posted it. I asked. Oh, she posted everything. And she had. Kara had gone live with a long, public post on her personal and business social media pages, a polished, overly curated, multi-paragraph essay explaining how she was being targeted by a bitter ex who couldn't handle her success. She talked about being the true creative force behind our former shared home, claimed I'd tried to sabotage her business out of jealousy, said I'd launched a coordinated campaign to discredit her out of revenge. And then, my favorite part, she attached screenshots. Screenshots of my messages to Rachel, of my spreadsheets, of the private documentation I'd collected. Everything she could get her hands on before I cut her off from my systems. Only she doctored them. Dates were altered. Messages edited. Quotes taken completely out of context. It was meant to paint me as unstable, obsessive, dangerous. But there was one problem. She wasn't the only one who saved receipts. Within 30 minutes of her post going live, Jenna commented directly beneath it with a calm, scathing paragraph. As someone who worked with Kara and was never paid, I can confirm that Leo's claims are accurate. I have receipts and screenshots that match his records exactly. Kara, I asked you privately to resolve this months ago. This is not defamation. This is accountability. 2 hours later, David followed. I'm a photographer. I signed a contract with Kara's company and was never compensated for the work. I filed a claim with Small Claims Court. I'll happily share documentation with anyone interested. Then came Rochelle. Then 2 more freelancers I didn't even know about. By the end of the day, Kara had turned the lights on herself. She expected a flood of sympathy. What she got was a reckoning. My inbox exploded. People who had worked with her, lived with her, dated her. Some stories were worse than mine. Some were almost carbon copies. Rachel and I watched it unfold like spectators at a very slow, very satisfying implosion. This is a gift, she said. She's tying herself to the lies, publicly. Let it breathe. Don't say a word. Not yet. I didn't. I waited 4 days. Then I posted. Not on social media. Not in a public statement. But on a Medium blog post I'd written weeks ago. Calm, detailed, and backed with evidence. It included redacted screenshots, time-stamped receipts, contract references, and a clear chronological narrative of what happened. I didn't name-call. I didn't insult. I didn't even mention her business by name. I just told the truth. Quietly. Respectfully. Objectively. And then, I sent the link to everyone who'd messaged me. I posted it in the comments of Kara's original post, now riddled with backlash. And I shared it with the freelance groups she'd tried to recruit new designers from. It spread faster than I expected. Freelancer forums, Reddit threads, design Twitter. Everywhere she tried to rebuild her reputation, my post followed. Not because I pushed it, because the people she hurt shared it themselves. She tried to control the narrative. But you can't outrun the truth forever. 2 weeks later, her business website went down. 3 weeks later, She deleted all her social media profiles. And a month after that, I received an email from her lawyer. No subject line. Just, Kara Holt has formally agreed to settle the outstanding loan in full. A payment plan has been arranged, and she will not contest the breach of contract claim. Rachel replied with a single line, "We accept. Let this be closure." But it didn't stop there. See, Kara's campaign didn't just backfire. It made her infamous. Clients backed out. Collaborators ghosted her. And the reputation management firm she hired? They dropped her the moment her lies became a liability. She burned the bridge she tried to dance across. And me? I didn't celebrate. Not publicly. Not loudly. I didn't post victory dances or memes or gloat. I just got my life back. I kept seeing Miguel, my therapist. Kept going on runs. Started dating again, slowly, cautiously, on my terms. I even turned the guest room into a reading nook, with a massive bookshelf and a beat-up armchair I found at a flea market. One night, I was organizing the shelves when I found a single note Kara had left behind, tucked between two unused sketchbooks. It just said, "We could have built an empire." I read it twice, then threw it in the trash, because I had built something, just not with her. I built peace, boundaries, self-respect, and I realized, finally, that revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just living better, freer, smarter, after someone tries to write your story for you. Kara tried to take everything. What she gave me instead was clarity. And when all was said and done, I didn't need to scream or shout or punish her. All I had to do was let her keep digging. She handed me the shovel.